As far as I remember, I always knew that I would learn sharks. I was not yet thinking of the professional side of it, neither of the human side. All I knew was that I would one day master animal language. Just like a stubborn passion for mountaineering will eventually, on your journey, make you visit Nepal, sharks will always bring you back to South Africa, and probably on that beach. It is funny that the use of a bait can sometimes create controversy, taking in account that it was here, in the first place, just a diversion technique from the spearfishers to take some sharks away from the reef while they were hunting. But some people started diving and started to bring other people, who also started to bring other people, and it became a business, never too big and always without a cage. There are only a few diving destinations that stand the comparison with South Africa. That coastline has different seasons and different moods, and a name, the Wild Coast, because everything here is wild. I've always been what people call a budget diver, someone who travels alone with his own gears just to pay a little bit less and dive a little bit more. Someone who will be keen to sleep on a couch or even on the floor as long as tomorrow's dive are worth it. But a moment came where I stopped paying for dive. Here, it became the opposite. I had become a shark guide. The story of how it really happened is quite of a long story. It is a story about sharks, men, and money. I mean relation with money. Where all I wanted from the very beginning was just to learn properly how to dive with any sharks, without a cage. I wanted to learn how to read them. And I did. Identification is for sure the most difficult part of that whole thing, because you will sometimes only be able to tell the difference between them by a body mark or the size or just what the shark is doing. And that's why years ago I started naming them, all of them. And those specific sharks, even if they will sometimes come rub on your fins, are rarely dangerous, and most of the time accidentally, like most of sharks, by the way. Cage is not here necessary, with the other divers keeping their distance with the bait, and I am more looking for another silhouette in the blue. That's what I am paying attention to them. There's always an electric connection between the shark guide and the group of sharks, which is called a shiver, by the way. You can both read and feel those animals. They will always adapt to you. But that is true even when there is no bait. And this is where I must say that I was lucky to learn scuba from scratch to DM level in my own country with an instructor who was pretty gifted with animals. Someone who showed me that even without a bait, animal curiosity is something you can create. And I studied that. I went curious with how the animals actually think, and I started studying their movements, not only on the planet, but also in the water, when they do face a diver or a group of divers. I've studied all animals, but I do have to admit a certain obsession towards South African sharks and marine mammals. It's not that I never went diving in another country. I've been once to Philippines, twice in Malaysia, twice in Indonesia, twice in Sri Lanka, twice in Egypt, and also in Guadeloupe and in La Réunion Island. But South Africa, and especially that coast of KZN, always appeared to me, and that without a doubt, as the place where I should learn sharks and maybe one day see my first ever great white shark. I thought I was getting lucky on my first trip here, on a sardine run day, but it was a great hammerhead, and I was maybe coming a little bit too fast. I dedicate my second trip in South Africa to great white, going further south to the coast looking for him for more than a month, without any result. I missed him from only one day on my 7th trip, when Mr. Great White came for a visit on a baited dive after I just spent 3 months doing every single one of them. I didn't saw him passing on my 9th trip during that quite milky dive, where I was more busy monitoring the divers at the back than looking around me. And it is not yet me again who filmed it this summer under the boat. Yeah, I don't want to talk about great white. I quickly developed the desire of making movies about sharks. And there's now 15 years ago, I started my YouTube channel with dive cycling video. 2 years after, I published my first documentary, both in French and in English, named Scuba Interacting, word that I did invented for the occasion. And in it, I was talking about Cousteau, the industry, why communication with animals will always be emphasized underwater, ending on the different behavior any animal can present facing a diver or group of divers. But the problem when you invent a word is that nobody will tap it. Fully aware that my first opus was really amateur shape, I then came with the idea of making different episodes shorter, taking every time a different species. Tiger sharks, mantas, fur seals, and octopus. Just to show that any animal possesses an emotional compass that obeys every time with the same logic. Logic which is nowhere to be found in the diving manuals I got proposed. Which is more or less what my message were. But on the way, it came the moment for me to talk about sharks, and I started rapping, still with the same stupid name I invented.
I always say, when I've been a grown-up, I'll be a diver. Dive more than 1,000 times, shoot way too many hours. Holding my breath just to get a good shot. Don't be too intrusive, always try to find a good spot. I stay so long underwater, I should have died from ear infection. And now I got this nitrogen addiction.
I was not only doing rap videos, it was like South African people say, every now and then thing. But I fully went into vlog mode. And one day, my whole life changed. And I was at that time one of the happiest Indian Ocean diver you could have come across. I had a classroom where I was sharing emotional compass and shark behavior blah blah. I didn't have a lot of people, but I didn't mind because I was diving every day. Sometimes only for me, sometimes for people, but always vlogging along the way. And I don't want you to think I'm a photographer. I almost hate photography. I often think that there's never a greater distance between the diver and the animal than when the diver is actually pressing his buttons. No, I love to film non-stop. I've always filmed to study in the first place and watch the video afterward to name the specimen and analyze their movements. I did try to contact French diving magazines and some brands in the hope of maybe getting a proposition. But with 100 subscribers, I knew I was not getting any interest outside of the people I actually knew. And I didn't give a damn. I was happy that way. I was I was volunteering in a non-governmental school beside diving. I had my friends. I was going on the beach and I had a life here. But it was before that day when I met this other French guy who was sitting on one of this couch over there. And at first I was smiling because South Africa is not really the place to come and say you're a shark expert, blah blah. Especially when you are French. But because that guy did. And my smile disappeared 3 days after when I came across the book of that Frenchman to find out it was word for word my first documentary, without even the kindness of the paraphrase. And if you call that book a hamburger, let's take that the meat was my meat. And he didn't contact me in front. He never proposed me anything, like he said on the message. And I was cross. I was like really cross. I wanted to murder him. And it was my plan. Because the guy was good. Oh fuck, he was good. At selling. Not sailing, selling. So being the martial man I am, after a quick Facebook exchange that confirmed me I was facing a gifted liar, I decided to take a lawyer. But I also took all my money and with it I bought a catamaran in Bretagne to make it my own research boat. Even if I did bought that boat a little bit fastly after a simple internet research, its size was allowing me to have the following plan. I wanted to sail that boat back to Mediterranean and Madrid and go live part of the year on my home city of Avignon. I wanted along the way to shoot episodes on grey seals and octopus. I wanted to invite artists concerned with marine ecology to promote my work. I think I was trying to win the court before it even started. But that boat was buffok. It had cracks on both sides that had been hidden. I only discovered 8 days before heading to sea, forcing me to stay a whole month stuck at Morlaix, North Finisterre. So I went back in South Africa. I was at that time spending 3 months twice a year here for tiger and sardine season. And to be honest, even if I did went to court in France because the guy was quite famous and the copying was 101, I was on another side hoping to come across him here and give my own justice. And I think on a dive I would have break him a figure. Because that is the thing with normal justice. It is freaking long. And as long as you will keep answering with your lawyer whatever the other part will pretend, that game will never stop. Especially if from the very beginning you have no address to send your mail to. Because that French man, even if he has a commercial activity in France through shows and magazines, lives on the paper in Egypt and pay no tax at all on the process of selling his diving trips, his t-shirts and his book. The bitter part for me to swallow was the fact that some people were ready to pay between 2,000 to 3,000 euro on top of the normal price just to go diving with that guy because he had written a book on sharks, when I knew how he wrote it. Already not a big fan of the middlemen who do nothing but increasing the price of the final bill, doing sometimes quite nothing in the process. That guy became an obsession of mine. I was observing the development of his diving business and the growth of his destination list, and I had to admit I was jealous. And my obsession was to come across him here. So after that last lawyer letter, where I got told that my movie was useless based on the number of views, where any bicycle fall hit few thousands, where I did start it with a bicycle fall that never hit few thousands, it was enough for me. and I made my decision of stopping the discussion and asked the judge's opinion. I had a bailiff paper, written lies, the anteriority of my video over the book's publishing dates, and it was perfect word-for-word copy of my script. I could not imagine for me any way out for that guy. And after the catamaran episode, I was hoping to get some kind of opportunity from that story. But before even winning anything, there was something I was starting to lose. Gradually, without even noticing it, I was losing my patience with people who don't know how to dive. And I'm not talking here about beginners. The reef of Aliwal Shoal is not necessarily a learning place. Once turned into an instructor, I did have a few open water courses and it was always fun. But for most of the time, I was a guide for people who supposedly already know how to dive. People who were coming here to see sharks, dolphins and whales, and who, like I said before, had never been taught how to interact because this is not in the freaking program. Living in a period where there's oftenly as many cameras on the boat than there's diver, I was forced to accept how counterproductive a group of humans can be when there's a camera involved. And I would say that it was something I could accept when it was only affecting the quality of the dive, but on the occasion this was impacting the safety of the entire group, I was struggling to control my nerves. More and more every day. And one day I got grounded because of something I did during a dive. I was okay with the guy refusing to put his feet in the foot straps during the launch, even after having been explained the seatbelt side importance of those straps. And I was also getting along with the photographer flashing non-stop at the animals without noticing his intrusivity for a picture that had already been taken more than 1,000 times. I had accepted how selfish the average diver sometimes can be. I was doing my best most of the days, but darkness was boiling inside me, and one day it exploded. A day when I was just being a sweeper, diving at the back, making sure that nobody would get lost during the dive, noticing that an instructor and his student kept on trying to go away from the group, which is something you don't do on Aliwal. And as he refuses my call, by surprise, because he was avoiding my contact, I went full speed on him and I bumped him. In my head, it was kind of a joke, just like a shark attack, but that shoulder strike was an offense for the instructor who happened to be the chief of that group of 15 Portuguese filling the dive center that week. And I got suspended for a certain amount of time.
Have you met my friend the floor?
It was at this moment that I got the news that I just lost my court case and that I was the one sentenced to pay 4,000 euros. Basically, my script was to me like an essay to an introduction of the thesis. The three reasons why animal interaction is emphasized underwater, and to me again, the 4 branches of animal wild behavior. 4 because it is an emotional compass. And as much as the copy was copy and the dates were the dates, I got fucked. And my grandmaster came to find me. Retrospectively, at that time, I was only running after 2 things: a dead whale carcass and the other and that from Transguy to South Mozambique. You see, when your dream is to see a great white shark without putting yourself into a cage, there are only a few options left. But from far, the best one will be to dive on the dead whale carcass. Every year, around July, in the peak of their winter, happens here a sardine migration that brings thousands of dolphins, hundreds of whales, millions of birds, and as you may already suppose, a decent amount of sharks. And sometimes, around that period, a whale will die and float at the surface for only a few days. But that game is not easy at all, because the whale carcass can be drift too far and end up on the beach, meaning you lost the game. But if you quickly manage to tie a line around the tail, then tow it with your boat in a shallow section of the reef where you can tie it on a line to a piece of rock at the bottom, well, you just created the best floating dive site on the planet. Just like Emil did with the last dead whale carcass that came floating around here. And honestly, thinking about this, it was pretty logic that my quest led me to Emil Pierzental. And in a certain way, it taught me how to move away from the jealousy that was inside me at the time. I understood I was way more lucky being here for the sardine run with him than in the Bahamas with 15 stupid divers, PowerPoint enthusiasts. At the core of this, Emma reconnected me with a simple pleasure I had forgotten on my way of learning sharks. A very simple pleasure, a kid dream, breathing underwater. He explained me how useless it was trying to change adults who will never change, and encouraged me to invest on kids, giving me the use of his school, which I did. Emma also introduced me to a complete different world, the rehab world, a dimension where people are sometimes coming back from such a hell that they will always be happy to be on the boat on the ocean, even if there's not much happening. Divers who will film with their eyes and listen with their heart, and pray before eating. Diving with Emo just felt like I was finally where I belong. I knew I was in the best conditions to maybe one day realize my dreams, but I also realized only the fact that this man knew I was capable already was a victory to me. There's still that day something I can't swallow with marine biology. There is in the oceans way enough knowledge to teach all the planet how to read, write, count, and other stuff. But none of our leaders, the ones who are ruling the blue planet, the blue part of our planet we are living on, none of them is qualified in marine biology. I mean, it is not even a spoken language up there. I always had that dream of a blue pooch, a vote that humans will one day declare themselves as an ocean citizen and no longer American, German, Egyptian or French, but Oceaner. To a point where governments would be forced to accept the societal ecological changes that need to be done. Yeah, maybe it's an old problem of mine. I always had too many dreams. But maybe you should check what CHATILLON is. But the problem when you have too many dreams is when you're awake. And awake in my own country, I was close. Because I was lucky to no longer pay to dive in one of the best reefs of the world in my own town of Umkomas. And I was flying here twice a year to dive for a few months, both for tigers and dead whale inshallah. But that guy I've just paid $4,000 to was making money selling shark dive trips and quite fucking expensive ones, like a hell of a tour operator because of the books on sharks he had just written, turning him into a shark expert when that book was just a copy of my freaking documentary script. And when all I heard that guy said anytime he talked about shark, he is what I call blah blah blah. And like I said, only with sharks you can blah blah an entire life. But even ecology conservation can sometimes sound like blah blah to me. His whole organization was making me think of some American bullshit dojo where everybody is overweighting and wearing a black belt, convinced of the power of Denmark. This was exactly what it was. From a South African standard I've been obeying those years. And believe me, I came here that weekend with dreams of Denmark. and I had clear occasion to Denmark, the motherfucker. But I've done nothing. I have contemplated my defeat and the aquatic nonsense of that whole thing. And that led me to realize that I was in the first place looking for adrenaline. And also that I also needed something that would be mine, something that you could never have, my cave. In scuba, people usually only identify the species, when it is the specimen that is interesting. Every fish has different body marks, behavior, equation, and at a certain depth, it is all black. People are sometimes shocked by the fact that I like to dive alone. But I'm on the paper licensed to take up to 8 people with me, having only 2 hands. So I never achieved to feel like I was taking any additional risk diving on my own. Freshwater just saved me from my Mediterranean depression. This was new, this was infinite. I never had to clean my gears again, and I never knew what to expect. But those fish I've been diving with now, and this just felt like shark.
This is what you're waiting for. I think we're ready to rock.
I say hold up, cock my glizzy, bang bang. I say hold up, cock my glizzy, bang bang.
I could tell you on how I spent most of COVID time either in or on the water, picking up trashes and fishing stuff. But what I want to show you is what I started doing after COVID. Because someone one time said, le bonheur ne vaut que s'il est partagé. And I started to bring some kids to realize something funny. In a river, first you only need a snorkel, but with kids, you will always be associated as a family unit, and that with any bait. I can promise you. So I think this is something more people should try, because there are some stuff to see, and if you were into fish, this is the cheapest version of diving you will ever find. Went ghost with a hair pack, never boast loud, get your bear whacked in my condo where I bear tracks with a gang. Catch that for the gram, snap that for the man. These dudes do the most, no money in the hand. I ain't never had to feel away, rhyme steady and they feel the way. Occupation make it either way, never worry cause I can. Back chat from the whack gang, took charge when they sack man. Passport when a milestone, make space when the bags land. This must be a daydream, Max got me the mad plan. My team never lied on, due with
visit from the facts, man. He be riding on the wave. I ain't got a lot to say. Mine's heavy, give me space. Pines ready, let me blaze. Spend money, what a waste. Times money, money pays. You ain't ready for the eighth. She ain't ready for the eighth. He be riding on the wave. I ain't got a lot to say. Mine's heavy, give me space. Pines ready, let me blaze. Spend money, what a waste. Times money, money pays. You ain't ready for the eighth. She ain't ready for the eighth. Fake clothes, same watch, fake crepe, same fucks, fake squad, same lots, but flop ain't what I'm on. Aim up, don't stop, we beat leveling. Proceeds increase heavily. Don't need this man's energy. I be the one, beat the one. I don't make a song to make a song, and the vibe is right. The mic will let me onto the signs. I light up, I spit the strong in the line. Pick me first before I'm gone. I ain't straight sicker with the wordplay. Syllables spin, I don't fidget when I burst straight. Minimal talk when I work late. Fuck what you think, but my work rate. Celebrate wins like a birthday. This is 3-6, got a mean list of the tracks. You man busy sleeping when I brainstorm as a plan. Linked handy on the underground. I don't even have to ask. Miss laughing with my brother now. I ain't talking about Dan. Catch up when he lands. Snapshot with the fam. KL did a madness. Back soon going ham. Come see how we ride out. Short change but we smile proud. Been blazed for a while now. Stay ready for the jam. He be riding on the wave. I ain't got a lot to say. Mine's heavy, give me space. Pines ready, let me blaze. Spend money, what a waste. Times money, money pays. You ain't ready for the eighth. She ain't ready for the eighth. He be riding on the wave. I ain't got a lot to say. Mine's heavy, give me space. Pines ready, let me blaze. Spend money, what a waste. Times money, money pays. You ain't ready for the eighth. She ain't ready for the eighth.
And I flew back to South Africa. Because of river flood, because of cold water, or maybe only because I could. My grandmaster has left the country. I was unemployed with no other goal of just diving. But this is when something changed, because I had changed. I had become again Johnny the happy hippo I was before that whole story, and I was finally no longer giving a shit about what that guy's life was because I knew mine was feeling better. And I got proposed to do the sardine run again. And just like that, I was finding myself at the best place, at the best moment, ready to maybe see my first great white shark. And just made me realize that I had achieved my goal. What's the point of being recognized as a shark expert by people who know fuck all about sharks? And what's the point of living a life where all you talk about is blah blah and you don't even use the animal language? What's the point of glory? What's the point of revenge? Fuck glory. And fuck Steven.